بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين الصادقين وعد علينا بعوائدك الحسنى يا أكرم الأكرمين. Continuing from where we left off, Yusuf, who was once in the prison, is now sitting in the palace. And he's not just sitting in the palace, but he's sitting in the position of a leader in the palace. He is the leader of the treasury. He has control of the wealth of the kingdom of Egypt. He has control of the provisions. And more importantly than that, he has control of the granaries and the storage of food. Everything is under his control. And exactly what Yusuf had prophesied, in which the Egyptians would spend 7 years saving food and making as much wheat and making as much corn and so on and so forth. That's exactly what happened. And then 7 years of drought followed after that, and then 1 year of rain followed after that, to the degree that there was not even one small piece of land left in Egypt, except that they utilized every part of Egypt in order to grow wheat. But what's interesting about this phenomenon of 7 years of drought and 7 years of lack of vegetation was that it did not only affect Egypt, but it affected the lands surrounding Egypt, including the land of Palestine, where Yaqub alayhi salam, the prophet Jacob, and his family resided. So even the people of Palestine and nearby regions started to head towards Egypt, because they knew in Egypt there is a leader, a strategic leader, who has saved up for 7 years. And so all of these different people from all across the world are moving towards Egypt in order to get food. And so many of the people in Palestine and the regions around Egypt, they did not know of the prophecy of Yusuf. They did not know of his interpretation of the dream. And so for the 7 good years, they ate like normal. And then when the 7 years of drought came, they had nothing left. And so they had to go towards this part of Egypt in order to get from the granaries of Yusuf alayhi salam, to get from the food storages of Yusuf alayhi salam. And this included his own family. Yaqub and his family did not know that eventually a time would come in which there would be no more food left. So Yaqub, he sends his 10 sons to go to Egypt to bring back food for their family in Canaan in Palestine. But he doesn't send one of his sons. Which son does he not send? The 11th son, whose name is Binyamin, or Benjamin in English. This son, Binyamin or Benjamin, was the blood brother of Yusuf, or the other 10 were his half brothers. They were only related to him through his father. And so Yaqub alayhi salam, he did not know why Egypt was so prosperous and was going through such a great time, even during drought. And so the Quran says, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. That the brothers of Yusuf, fast forward, they went to the land of Egypt, and there they entered on Yusuf, on his court, on his palace, and he recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. How does Yusuf know that this is his brothers? Number one is because Yusuf was a little kid and they were older than him. And so their features had already been established. As for his features, a little boy eventually grows and his features change. And so they're not able to recognize him. The second reason is because Yusuf, he was aware of every single individual entering in his city in Egypt. Why? Because he would place guards at the different gates of the city. And at that time, cities were made not in the way that they are over here, where there's an open concept. They were made in fortresses, in castles, in walls, right? So if you go today to certain countries around the world, in Greece or in Istanbul, in Egypt, you'll still see the remnants of how certain cities had walls surrounding them. And so Yusuf knew everybody that would come in, and anybody that would come in, they'd have to write their name, that we are so and so from such and such land. And so Yusuf knew who was coming in. Yusuf was given the control of the security as well as the army. And the ruler, the actual ruler of Egypt, the king of Egypt, would not make any decisions without consulting Yusuf first. And so Yusuf had given a specific order to the soldiers and to the guards of the city that anyone that enters or leaves that is from the land of Canaan, which is the land of Palestine, I want to be informed about it. So as soon as his brothers entered into his city, automatically he got a message that 10 brothers of related blood have entered into the city and they are from Canaan. And so right away, Yusuf, he knew that this was his brothers. Now, why didn't they know? Number one, we mentioned is because 40 years had passed and his features had changed. So they weren't able to recognize who Yusuf was. The second thing is because of the fact that they never expected that the boy that was left in the well would be the de facto ruler of Egypt, or you could say the temporary ruler of Egypt during this drought. And they also didn't expect him to be alive. And so the books of history, they mention that whenever people from other lands that were non-Egyptians would come into Egypt to seek provisions, to seek food during this drought, Yusuf would give them one portion of wheat, enough that they could put on one animal. And so if you were a person that came, you'd get one portion and you'd put it on your animal, and then you'd go back to your nation or to your country. And if you brought 10 animals with you and you were 10 people, he would give you 10 portions. But if you brought 20 animals, he would not give you more than that. He would only give you 10 portions, and that's it. This is because he was making sure that he took care of the Egyptian people before he worried about other people. But that did not stop his generosity with other people. And so his brothers, they entered on Yusuf not knowing who he was. And they saw his impeccable character despite the fact that they had committed a crime, but he didn't treat them bad at all. Now, Yusuf, because there's 10 brothers, he gives them 10 portions, one for each one of them. They see that Yusuf has such great character that they say, "Oh, Yusuf, give us 2 more. Oh, Aziz, give us 2 more. Because we have our father who is old and cannot travel because he is blind. And we have our young brother, Binyamin, who's in Palestine with our father, taking care of him. And he is too young to travel. And we are truthful. So give it to us." Yusuf, he says that I'll give you the extra portion, but there's a condition. I need you to bring your brother to me, meaning bring Binyamin to me in the following years. And so the Quran, it says, وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجِهَازِهِمْ or bijahazihim, that when Yusuf put the portions on each of their animals and gave them food, Yusuf, he said, I have one condition. "I'tuni bi akhil lakum min abikum." Bring your brother, the 11th one from your father, so that I know that you're truthful. أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنِّي أَوْفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. Don't you see that I am generous and I give you the amount of food and I give you a full measure of whatever you want, and I am the best of hosts? Meaning I took care of you, I gave you honor, I gave you everything. So make sure that because I'm giving you food, that you fulfill the condition of bringing your brother. And so this verse over here indicates to us that Yusuf alayhi salam, he knew their conditions. He knew what was going on. He knew that these were his brothers, right? And so Yusuf alayhi salam, he continues. And at this point, he says, I'll give you exactly what you want. I'm not going to decrease anything, but all you have to do is bring your brother. I've honored you. I've taken care of you. Even though you all are people that take care of camels and goats and sheep, you're just shepherds. And here I am, the leader of Egypt, and I'm honoring you. And then Yusuf, he says, but if you don't fulfill my condition, فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ. That if you don't fulfill my condition, I will not give you the extra portion that you want for your father, and I will not let you enter the lands of Egypt. Don't come even near me again. Meaning, if you lie right now, I'm not going to help you. Right? And so at the beginning, Yusuf is treating them well, but at the same time, he's giving them a warning. And this is how you should be with people at times. You have to treat them well, but you also have to let them know there are certain boundaries, that they cannot take advantage of your boundaries. And so Yusuf's saying, I'll help you, but these are the boundaries and the conditions that I've set up for you. And so they go back and they give Yusuf a prophecy. They say, سَنُرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ, that we will get permission from our father. وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ, and that's exactly what we'll do. This word sanurawidu anhu, it, it means that we'll do whatever it takes to convince our father. Even if we have to say whatever we need to say, we'll get him to agree. Even though the task of getting our father to agree is going to be difficult, we will get results. Right? We won't come back. We won't fail at what you want us to do. And so they وقال لفتيانه جعلوا بضاعتهم في رحالهم, that Yusuf, he turns to his servants, the young boys, and he says that the money that these people have given me, give it back to them. So how did the brothers get food? It's because they bartered and they traded. They gave Yusuf something and Yusuf gave them food. What did they give Yusuf? They gave Yusuf leather or shoes made out of leather. They gave him products made out of leather. Why? Because at that time, Palestine was known for producing leather. And so that's what they traded for the food, right? And so Yusuf, he says that the leather that they've given me, put it back on their animals, put it somewhere where they won't see it. Meaning, give them food, plus give them back what they paid for it. Meaning, they don't need to worry about paying me or anything like that. لعلهم يعرفونها إذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم لعلهم يرجعون, so that when they go back to Palestine, they will discover that I didn't even take any payment from them. I gave them free food. That's how well I treated them. And that's how honest I was with them. So that when they realize that I didn't take any leather from them, I didn't take any payment from them, I didn't take any bartering from them, and I gave them food, that they'll come back and they'll say, oh, this is Yusuf, the one that took care of us. And so the servants did exactly that, right? And so they went back to Egypt, right? Now, what's the wisdom of Yusuf putting the money or putting all the stuff back that he was given? Imam al-Razi, he says, because of 3 reasons. The first reason is because when they saw that Yusuf gave them their stuff back, or the price that they paid, they would want to come back to see Yusuf. Number 2 is because they wanted that Yusuf, he wanted to earn the favor of Yaqub. He wanted to show Yaqub that the king of Egypt, or the de facto ruler of Egypt, who is him, is a good person. Now the question is, why doesn't Yusuf just send a direct message to Yaqub? Why doesn't he just tell his father that I'm Yusuf, I'm the ruler of the treasurer, I'm the ruler of the granary, I'm your son that you lost 40 years ago, right? Yusuf, he spent 8 years as a prisoner and slave, right? But no longer was he slave. He was the de facto ruler of Egypt. Couldn't he have told his father? The reason why he didn't tell his father or give his father a direct message was because Allah was also testing his father. Allah was testing his father in what way? By saying, oh Yaqub, is Allah greater in your heart, or is Yusuf greater in your heart? Allah didn't give Yusuf permission to tell his father about him being alive. And so once the love of Allah empowered the love of Yusuf in the heart of Yaqub, then and only then would the exam of Yaqub end, and Yusuf would be able to reveal that I am your son. And so the brothers, they returned back to Canaan with an impossible task. They have to bring Benjamin, back to the treasurer of Egypt, who is Yusuf. They know that they had already lost Yusuf once, and now they would have to get their father to trust them once again with their other brother. In the case of Yusuf, they lied, and that cost Yaqub 40 years of his relationship with Yusuf. But this time they had to take Binyamin, and this time they were planning on telling the truth. They weren't going to lie about why they needed their brother. So the Quran says, فَلَمَّا رَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ أَنْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مُنِعَ مِنِّ الْكَيْلِ فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا أَخَانَا نَكْتَلْ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. That, oh, our father, we weren't able to acquire the additional measures of grain or the additional food unless we take our brother Binyamin with us. So send him with us, and this time we'll actually guard him. This time we'll actually protect our brother. And Yaqub, he responds, هَلْ آمَنُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ. Should I leave my other son with you? Should I entrust my other son with you after you've lost his brother Yusuf before? إِلَّا كَمَا أَمِنْتُكُمْ عَلَى أَخِيهِ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Should I do the same thing over again? فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. But look at the shift. This time, Yaqub, he says that Allah is the best of all caretakers. Allah is the best hafiz, the best protector, and He is the most merciful of all merciful people. So what's happening to Yaqub? He's starting to put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying that Allah will take care of Binyamin if you guys take him. So what ends up happening is وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُم, that they go back to the food, they go back to their animals. وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُم, they found that their leather and the items that they were planning on trading with Yusuf was still with them. Meaning Yusuf never took anything from them. رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ, he returned back everything that they paid with. And then they go to their father, Ya Abana ma nabghi, that, oh, our father, what more can we desire? This king, he gave us free food and he didn't even take any payment from us. هذه بضاعتنا ردت إلينا, this is our stuff, he gave it back to us. وَنَمِيرُ أَهْلَنَا, all we want to do is go back to Egypt, take our brother with us, and secure more food for you and our brother. وَنَزْدَادُ كَيْلَ بَعِيرٍ, so that we can get even one more provision. ذَلِكَ كَيْلٌ يَسِيرٌ, this is easy for the king of Egypt to do. He can easily give us one more load. And so Yaqub, he says, لَنْ أُرْسِلَهُ مَعَكَ, I'm not going to send my son with you. I'm not going to send Binyamin with you. حَتَّى تُؤْتُونِي مَوْثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ, until you swear by Allah. You make an oath with Allah. And these are still the sons of a prophet. They're still righteous people. Yeah, they committed one sin at one point of their life, but they know what it means to swear by Allah. Right? And so until you give me a swear. But Yaqub is an understanding father. He knows that certain times an enemy might come or a situation might happen where they might not be able to fulfill their promise. So he says, إِلَّا أَن يُحَاطَ بِكُمْ, unless something happens along the way. فَلَمَّا أَتَوْهُ مَوْثِقَهُمْ قَالَ اللَّهُ عَلَى مَا نَقُولُ وَكِيلٌ, that when they gave their promise, Yaqub, he says that Allah is the one that is witnessing everything that you're saying, right? And so the idea behind all of this is, I want a promise from you, but if you break your promise because of another circumstance, because of a situation, I'm not going to hold you above what you can do. And then he gives them some advice. He's still their father. He still loves them. And he says, Ya baniya, oh my sons, la tadkhulu min babin wahid, don't enter from one gate. Don't enter from one door. Remember, we said the cities back then were designed with a fortress. They had different gates. And so he says, don't enter from one gate. وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ, that go from different doors. Take different gates to get into the city of Yusuf. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا, that nothing will save you, nothing will avail you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ, that rule is for Allah only. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ, that I rely upon Allah when I send you, my sons, and وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ, and I will put my trust in Allah, and let those that trust Allah also put their trust in Him. Meaning you, my sons, also put trust in Allah. And so these castles and these fortresses have gates, right? Now, what's the reason why Yaqub wants them to go through different gates? The Quran doesn't explicitly mention why he wants his son to go through different gates. The Mufassirun and the scholars of Tafsir, they come and they say there are a few reasons. The first reason is because the sons of Yaqub, they were all beautiful men. They were all strong men. And he did not want them to be affected by ayn or hasad. And ayn and hasad is something that's real. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, al-aynu haq, that the evil eye is something that is true. And so he wanted to cover them. And he's saying, go through different doors. If all 10 of you come together, then people's eyes will start looking at you. And they'll be like, who are these people that have come from a foreign land? And in this is a lesson for us, that we as Muslims, we shouldn't show every single detail of our lives. Because showing your blessings is a disaster. It causes strife and difficulty for you. And worst case scenario, it causes ayn and hasad to afflict you. And so, وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُمْ, but if Allah wants evil eye to happen to you, it will happen to you no matter what. And so, this is the same lesson that the Prophet ﷺ taught Ibn Abbas, who was a young boy, in which the Prophet said, if the whole world gathers to benefit you, they won't be able to benefit you unless Allah wants you to be benefited by them. And the whole world will not be able to harm you unless Allah wants the whole world to harm you. And so the idea is that his father is saying that don't enter from one door because you might be afflicted by ayn or by hasad, right? And so this is the first reason. Second reason that the Mufassirun give is that he feared that they would be sent to prison. Why would they be sent to prison? لِأَنَّهُمْ غُرَبَاء, because they're strangers. 10 strong, built-looking young men with strange clothes and big bodies coming into another city. It's possible that the police would grab them, question them, and ask them, why are you here? The third interpretation, which is the weakest interpretation, is that perhaps it's all metaphorical. What does it mean by it's metaphorical? It means that enter from one door. There's no problem with entering from one door. What does it mean? It means if you fail to get what you want from Yusuf in one way, then try another way to get what you want from Yusuf. Don't give up. If one door literally closes, take another door to achieve what you need to do. This tafsir is the weakest of the tafsirs because it's not direct, it's not clear from the Quran. And so what ends up happening is that they do exactly what their father wanted them to do. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُم, and when they entered from the door their father told them to do, when they entered the way that their father commanded them to do, مَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, that nothing availed them, nothing helped them against the will of Allah. Exactly what Allah wanted to happen, that's what happened. إِلَّا حَاجَةً فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا, except for a need that was inside the heart of Yaqub that he needed to discharge. What was that need? That need in the heart of Yaqub was that he wanted his sons to implement his advice, which is enter from different gates so that you'll be protected from ayn, you'll be protected from hasad, and you'll be protected from going to jail. So this advice would give Yaqub peace. That's why they implemented this advice. وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And Yaqub is that prophet who has been given knowledge that we've taught him, and most of the people, they don't know. فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. What did Allah teach Yaqub? He taught Yaqub that Allah is the best of all protectors, and Allah is the most merciful of all people to have mercy. And so Yaqub had started to grow. He had grown from his time of losing Yusuf, right? And the last thing that I'm going to mention today is that every father in this world, his connection with his sons, despite the mistakes of his sons, will be greater than the connection that a son has with his father. No matter how harsh your father is, no matter how mean your father is, no matter how bad of a son you are, your father will always love you. Even in the case of Yaqub and his sons, he's still giving them advice despite the fact that they committed a crime, and he knew that they committed a crime. But the weakness of every man is his own child. The weakness of every man is his own child. Look at the example of Nuh that we went over. What did he say to his son? Ya bunay irkab ma'ana. That, oh my son, ride with us in the ship. Get on the ship with us. Right? Look at the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he's sacrificing his son, he doesn't want to sacrifice his son, and he's asking his son for his opinion. Right? Every father cares about his son. And so Yaqub, he's trying to tell them, لا تدخلوا من باب واحد, don't enter from one door. I'm giving you this advice because I love you. And so no matter what happens in your life, your fathers will always give you advice, and you might not see the wisdom behind their advice, but it's because they love you and they care for you. Inshallah, we'll stop here because we have other things to do, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and give us understanding. Whatever remains from the story, inshallah, we'll complete it online for those of you that would like to watch, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.